Last time, we uncovered the cracks in the parole process. Glitches, contradictions, and the impossible paradox of remorse versus justification. But behind the headlines of parole denied lies something darker. Because the California Parole Board wasn't only looking at 1989, they were also looking at everything since then. And buried in the Menendez brothers' prison records are details, infractions, conflicts, choices that help explain why their pleas for freedom fell flat. Tonight, we open those files. Every inmate in California has a central file, a living document that grows year by year, logging behavior, programs, and every violation. For Eric and Lyle Menendez, those files stretch back more than 3 decades. Inside, pages documenting their adjustment to prison life. And it wasn't all clean. Yes, the brothers eventually became leaders in self-help circles, college graduates, even role models for some younger inmates. But in the early years, their files recorded disciplinary actions, incidents of disobedience, possession of contraband, small things by prison standards, sometimes a phone, sometimes bending rules. Yet to the parole board, these missteps were evidence. Evidence that even after the most notorious of crimes, these men didn't always respect authority. The records painted a picture. Yes, they had matured. Yes, they had rehabilitated. But not perfectly. And in parole hearings, not perfectly often translates into not yet. Parole isn't just about the inmate. It's about the victims. And for Jose and Kitty Menendez, their voices still echo, through relatives, through community impact statements, through the raw memory of a crime that shattered an entire family tree. At every hearing, victims' advocates can submit testimony. They can remind the board of the brutality. Jose shot in the head, Kitty shot in the face, both left in pools of blood. They can describe the trauma inflicted on extended family members who lost not just a brother and sister-in-law, but also 2 nephews to the prison system. This is the irony of victim impact. It's permanent. Even 35 years later, the pain resurfaces with every parole attempt. And it weighs heavy on a board that must balance rehabilitation against justice. So why are we even here? Why do 2 men sentenced to life without parole in the 1990s have hearings at all? The answer is California's youthful offender parole law. It recognizes that young people, even those who commit heinous crimes, are still developing neurologically. They change. They mature. And so, anyone under 26 at the time of their crime is eligible for special consideration. Eric was 18. Lyle was 21. The law didn't exist in the 90s, but it does now. And in 2025, it opened the door that had once been bolted shut. For the Menendez brothers, this was nothing less than resurrection. From never to maybe. But maybe isn't freedom. And in their case, maybe ran into the immovable wall of their crime's brutality. It's worth pausing here to recognize just how divided America remains. On one side, younger generations, raised on Netflix dramatizations, who see the Menendez brothers as tragic figures. Kids forced into a gilded cage of wealth and abuse, who finally lashed out. On the other side, older Americans, many of whom watched the trial live in the 90s, who remember the luxury cars, the Rolex watches, the post-murder shopping spree. To them, the Menendez brothers are not victims. They are predators. Every parole hearing reopens this divide. Comment sections flood with outrage and compassion in equal measure. And for the parole board, caught in the crossfire, there is no winning. Deny parole, and you're accused of ignoring abuse survivors. Grant parole, and you're accused of excusing cold-blooded murder. It is justice as spectacle. And the Menendez brothers have been living inside that spectacle for 35 years. By most measures, Eric and Lyle have done what rehabilitation demands. They've completed programs, expressed remorse, built stable prison lives. But rehabilitation in parole law isn't just about doing the right things. It's about becoming the right person. And here lies the haunting question. How do you prove you've changed? When your name is Menendez. When your crime is so infamous, so permanently seared into public memory, that no program, no degree, no therapy can wash it away. For the board, the answer seems clear. You can't. Not yet. Which brings us back to the glitch. Because if there's one thing lawyers know, it's that process matters. A parole hearing tainted, even slightly, can be grounds for appeal. The audio bleed between Eric and Lyle's hearings may seem trivial, but in legal terms, it could be spun into a denial of due process. And if an appeal is filed, the question becomes, could the Menendez brothers win another hearing sooner than expected? Remember the administrative review loophole. 3 years becomes 18 months, and 18 months becomes even sooner. If a successful appeal resets the calendar, it's a chessboard, and every move matters. For now, though, the brothers wait. In their separate cells at Donovan, they count the days, the months, the years. They know the world is watching. They know the Netflix series, the TikTok edits, the YouTube explainers keep their names alive. But inside prison walls, none of that matters. What matters is the next hearing date, the next chance, the slim possibility that in 2026, not 2028, they might stand before the board again. Hope is fragile in prison, but for the Menendez brothers, hope is everything. And so we end where we began, with two brothers, two lives frozen in time since 1989, two men who murdered their parents in a storm of violence, who claimed they were victims themselves, who've now lived behind bars longer than they ever lived free, denied parole, but not defeated, because the law, the loopholes, and the glitches of human error have given them something that once seemed impossible. Another chance. Maybe in 3 years. Maybe in 18 months. Maybe sooner, if appeals succeed. And so we're left with the question that has haunted America for 3.5 decades. Are Lyle and Eric Menendez monsters of greed, or broken sons who deserve mercy? The answer may not come today, but someday soon, in a parole room in San Diego, it will come. And when it does, the world will be watching.